everybody, it's Jenny from the Missouri Star Quilt Company. Take a look at this quilt behind me. Isn't this fun? Don't you love how the white squares pop and the black squares pop? Well, I'm going to show you how to do this. So this is a takeoff on a quilt we made years ago called Summer in the Park. And it was so much fun to make it. And of course, over the years and things happen, and we've used that in several different quilts. But the other day I had an idea, and I thought, what happens if we change the size of these strips and we put smaller strips inside our strip sets? So to make this quilt, you're going to need one roll of 2.5-inch strips, and we have used Eliza by Williamsburg for Wyndham Fabrics. You're going to need a 1/2 yard of black fabric and a 1/2 yard of white. Now these are your pop colors right here, so whatever color you use, just know you need a 1/2 yard of each one of those. So for our outer border out here, this is a nice big 8-inch border. And this makes a quilt that is 67 by 67. Now remember, if you love this quilt and you see it on your bed, you just have to add another jelly roll and double your yardage. So just remember, it's easy to go up or down on these quilts by what pre-cut you decide to add to it and use. So for our back of the quilt, we used 4¼ yards, and we used this beautiful print back, and it just has these touches of gold in there. And I just think that just looks so pretty. So the quilt pattern we used on this is called Variety. Now when I choose a pattern for a quilt, I look at it, and if it looks elegant to me, I choose an elegant pattern. If it looks whimsical to me, I'll choose a whimsical pattern. If there's a lot of sharp lines, I tend to put something roundy in it. So just when you're choosing a pattern, it's always personal preference, but feel free to make those decisions. So I also use the Clearly Perfect slotted trimmer. This block is cut on the 45, and that's the degree of this ruler. So you can use a ruler that has a 45 line on it as well, but this Clearly Perfect slotted trimmer in the large size makes it really easy. All right, so let me show you how I did this. I have 2 strip sets. This is actually a tube method, and I put my 2 dark strips with a white strip in the middle. And then my next strips, I put 2 light strips with a dark strip in the middle. And you can see I've already got these sewn together. Now just a little tip. If you cut these yourself, I think you're okay, but I used mine from 2 different manufacturers that cut 1.5-inch strips. And they weren't the same size. Now these strip sets need to be the same size so that they line up. But you can see when they cut these, this one has a larger peak. They're measuring from the outside of the peak to the outside of the peak. This one has a smaller peak, so they're measuring from the inside. And so when you lay them together, you can see they're a little off. So make sure that your strips are all the same size. Even if you pull them in, like if you pull them in from your stash, check to make sure they're all the same size, because that will save you hours of headaches, I'm telling you. All right, so what we're going to do, I've sewn these 2 lights to a dark and 2 darks to a light. We're going to put them right sides together, and we're going to sew down both sides of this and make this a tube. So I'm just going to line these edges up right here like this, and I'm going to start sewing, and I'm going to sew the whole length of this 1/4 inch from the side, and I like to kind of get them lined up out here a little bit and just let the sewing machine take it through. And keep going. All right, line up one more time. Stay on that 1/4 inch. Straighten up. We're almost to the end here. All right, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to flip this around, and I'm going to sew down the other side. Now again, you want to make sure that these are nice and lined up, and if your strips are the same size, they will be. I actually really learned that the hard way. I made several blocks, and I'm like, why aren't these lining up? And then I discovered that it was my 2 middle strips were a little different size. Alrighty. Now we're at the end, and I'm going to look and make sure I caught this whole side here, and I did. And then what we're going to do is we're going to start cutting these open, and we're going to use our Clearly Perfect slotted trimmer, and we're going to shoot for a 7-inch block on this. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to lay my stitch line right here on their stitch line, just like this, and we are going to cut up like this, and we are going to cut down. And we are going to put this over here to the side. And what that gives us, look at this. What that gives us is this block right here that has those two pieces on either side. And it looks so cool. And so now we're going to flip our ruler, and we're just going to keep going along this whole strip. So since I'm left-handed, I flip this over so I can cut from the other direction. And again, I'm just going to lay my stitch line on their stitch line. And I'm going to cut this right here. And just trim this edge right here. Has a little tiny bit. And then I'll get another one. And then I can just pull this over. Pull this over, and I can flip my ruler, and I will be cutting the direction that is most comfortable for your hand. You want to make sure that you do that. And you're just going to cut your whole strip like this. Line up my seam line on their seam line. Now, if you're using a 45, what you're going to do is you are going to actually lay this on here this way. So you'll put your 45 so that it goes along the edge of the ruler right here. And see this 45 right here, and you'll pull this all the way over to the edge, and you're just going to make your cut right there. And that's how you do it using a regular ruler. This is so much easier for my brain and makes it really easy. So you're going to cut these all, and then we're just going to open them up. Let me cut one more so I have a full block here. So 7, just like this. And then I'm just going to put this aside. Now actually, if you cut the whole strip, you'll have this little piece left at the end. It's a little bit of waste, but maybe not. I have something to show you in the end. So I'm going to press these open. And I scrapped all of mine up. You'll notice no block up here has the same 4 pieces in it. I thought this would look better scrappy. You can do it whatever way you want, of course. But let me show you how these go together. All right. So now what we're using to match when we set this quilt together is I made it in 4 blocks like this. I let my center white square be the middle, and I put all my blocks together in 4s. And so when you do that, I'm going to put this block together in 4s. And of course, we'll have some of the same fabrics here because they come from the same strips. So here's this one in 4s. And then look what happens. The other ones the black ones start to line up out here. So let me get these on here. And so as you sew your blocks in 4s, all of a sudden you see these forming. So when you add your next row to it, it's going to be like this. Now let's put one more in here so we can show you how that finishes up. And so then you end up with black squares and white squares, and it just all comes together. It's just so cool how it just like happens. So I actually have another block over here that I have made. And I did it with solids because sometimes things are easier to see in solids. So I did 2 black strips with a colored green and 2 white strips with a colored blue. And so when you put them together with these solids, it's really fun because you get, everything is going to line up color-wise. And so you're going to get this blue square like this. And your secondary square out here is going to be the black one like this. Do you see how that happens? So then you end up with these big swaths of color that are just really fun to work with and really fun to do. Now, obviously, you're going to put this together. When you put this together, again, let's look at the quilt because I sewed 4 blocks together. So I put my white in the center and sewed this block to this block to this block to this block. And then I added the next row. And when I add this next row, that's when your secondary block matches up with the one above it because this is a row here. And this is a row here. So we have 4 rows on this. There's 16 blocks. But at the end of every strip honestly, when you start cutting these out, you're going to have a piece that's just about, I don't know. It's not, let me cut these few right here and let me show you, because it's not very much. So we'll go here, and I'll cut one more here. Oh, hang on. So I've got one here like this. And then you end up with a piece like this. Now this is actually, I actually have a hard time with this kind of waist, because I feel like there's a lot going on here. We could do something really cool with this. And so my assistant Kathleen, she is also not a waster, and she was a little worried about these. So she put together this pillow using these tiny pieces. And I think it came together so cute. And it's just the leftover pieces. So whatever scrappy pieces you have left over, don't be afraid to sew them together, see what happens. We're not having the same thing happen with our squares, but we're having a lot of fun, and you have a little decorative side pillow. Then she had to cut off some of those pieces, and so she made an even smaller one with the pieces she cut off. And so it's just really fun to see with the scraps. And you guys know I'm not a waster. Most of you are not wasters. So it's just fun, even though it's not the same exact pattern. How cool will this look on a bed? You know, when you put that on your bed next to your quilt, or you make a little table topper with it, you know, to go along with the quilt that you've made. So we hope you enjoyed this fun tutorial on summer squares from the Missouri Star Quilt Company. We hope you enjoyed watching this video. If you are not already part of the Missouri Star Quilt family, you can hit the subscribe button below so you won't miss a thing. And if you click that bell, it'll notify you every time a new tutorial comes out. See you next Friday.